Good morning or good afternoon for you. My name is Immani Love with BlaqueOut Magazine, and I am speaking today with Mark Fletcher from Manchester Pride. And today we're speaking with Mark about Manchester Pride and all the wonderful things happening over in the UK. So, good morning, Mark, or good afternoon. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your pronouns.
Yeah, my name's Mark Fletcher, pronouns he, him, and I'm the CEO at Manchester Pride. So I've been the CEO here now for 10 years, since 2014, and it's been quite a journey that we've been on and that we're continuing to traverse as well. Every day brings a new challenge, but I'm really passionate about the work that we do. And being able to make sure that we can make a sustainable change and leave the door open for who's coming next.
Fantastic. So tell me what led you to your work with Manchester Pride?
Pure coincidence. So it wasn't anything that I didn't wake up one day and think, I know what I want to do. I want to be the CEO of Manchester Pride. I didn't go to CEO school. I was working in the city. Manchester Pride was one of my clients. And at that time, there was an element of this disenfranchisement with our communities from the former leadership team, and what was happening with the organisation was not necessarily following the path that the communities wanted it to follow. And then there was a lot of burned bridges with not only community members, but with key stakeholders and allies that were supporting the movement in Manchester at that time. And I recognised that I was quite best placed because of the fact that I'd been on the journey with the charity for the previous 10 years. And I was well placed to throw my hat in the ring, really. It wasn't anything I was interested in doing. I was encouraged to do it. And it was by my closest friends that made me recognise and realise before I got there that this could potentially be a dream job for me and how suited I was for it. So I threw my hat in the ring, and then I fought for the job, and I was successful. And then we started making history with my team on that day forward.
Awesome. Now, in 2014, you were appointed as the CEO for Manchester Pride. What were the first changes that you wanted to implement?
I did implement them. It was to open the doors, pull up the blinds, open the windows, let everybody see who we were, what we were doing, and to engage upon a listening exercise with our communities. Because people had felt disconnected with how the movement was pressing forward in Manchester at that time. And because of what we do and the shape of the Pride event in Manchester is geared towards raising funds for LGBTQ plus causes, and communities and charities throughout the region, those contributions were dwindling. So I wanted to understand what it was that our communities expected from us, so that we could start to manage expectations, lay our stall out, but be honest about what we could do and what we were not able to do at that time. And it was called, it was a campaign we launched. And in those days, I say we, there was three of us. So the campaign was me scribbling on a piece of A4 paper, generating ideas, testing it with the let's call them the team, but there was no, it was a very small team. And it was called the Be Involved campaign. And we provided lots of different opportunities for people to get in touch with us and communicate with us how they wanted to tell us what they wanted. And for me, it felt really natural to do. And it's been one of the greatest learning exercises that I've had in my career. And it's almost a go-to point. It's a reflection point that I take myself back to whenever things are getting difficult, or whenever I'm going on that journey to question if we're making the right decisions, or if I am, then that's the reference point I go back to. Just remember what's most important is to listen to people and to respond.
Oh, that is beautiful. I love that. So tell us about the All Equals Charter and how it has impacted the POC LGBTQ community in Manchester.
Well, what a journey. You see, that started off as a passion project of mine, and this was, it developed from some research based off the back of a conversation, and then an personal experience that I had of racism at the Manchester Pride Festival in 2017. I took some of the issues that I'd faced and to the streets, almost to have conversations with wider communities, with other queer people of colour, to see what their experience was at our event. And I guess at that time, because I was so focused on moving forward with the charity, developing what it is that we're doing, ensuring the movement is going in the right direction, I was clearly focused on what I needed to achieve. What I'd not seen at that time was the lack of engagement from different communities who were not really feeling connected with the movement in their city because they didn't feel safe. And through having that first-hand experience of racism at the festival that I was responsible for, and telling queer people of colour that this is a safe space for us, was a real defining moment for me to stop and question what I would, I wouldn't say, I would never tolerate it, and I didn't tolerate it at the time when I called it out. But for me, what I was choosing to prioritise, I recognised the influence that I could have to draw focus on these issues because of my protected characteristics and the experience that I had. So we went to research and we met with community groups, a number of different community groups within Greater Manchester. And then I reached out to my networks to get a wider sense of what was the feeling in the UK for queer people of colour with Pride events. And what I got back was harrowing. And I immediately shared that with our Board of Trustees. And explained to them that the experience that I'd had and brought to life with other friends that I had, and asking them to feed into that. And we started to think about how we could impact change to make our events more accessible, but to ensure that this type of behaviour is being called out and that no one is getting left behind. So that's where the All Equals Charter, as we now know it, came from. We developed an idea, which was a charter to make sure that any suppliers, any contractors, any venues that Manchester Pride was working with could align its values with Manchester Pride and take a series of actions if they were to recognise, call out, and therefore help us to prevent racism against queer people of colour in these proclaimed universally safe spaces. The charter developed from that point. And what we recognised, we were really fortunate. Being in Manchester is quite a dynamic city, and we're not afraid of challenge either. And what was really pleasing to me was when we took the evidence that we gained from lived experience out into the wider sphere, shall we say, the response that we got from organisations was an immediate willingness to learn and to support this. So we developed this idea of a charter, and then we started recognising the other opportunities that we had to protect other protected characteristics or help organisations and individuals to recognise them and understand what they could do to make sure that their spaces were more inclusive, that their events were more inclusive, that queer people, all their protected characteristics, were recognised from an intersectional perspective. So that's where it came from, and we've developed it, and the success of it now is come on so far that it's the initial contact point for our engagement team when we're talking to organisations or bodies that want to support the movement or get involved with the charity. That's now the starting point. We can, it shifted the conversation from almost the sponsorship opportunities to come on board with us at our festival, to having to really scream and shout to them what the movement is about and why it's important. The All Equals Charter stands as a starting point for how you can help to support the Pride movement away from what we're doing within your own organisation. And it's the power of that we've uncovered that has made it pretty phenomenal, the strides that have been able to be taken back by Manchester Pride since then. As you can see, like I said, I told you with my baby, so I talk with quite a lot of passion about this because it's been really rewarding to see the fruits of our labour see fruition, to see this come to life, and to see some of these organisations adopting new policies, understanding what it means, and authentically engaging with and supporting the Pride movement, representative of all our protected characteristics. It's just gone way beyond what I was hoping to expect. What I expected. I only wish it would have solved the issue of rainbow racism, which sadly we know remains. There's a lot more work still to be done. But what pleases me is the willingness from people to learn and organisations to adapt to support it.
Okay, so that was a phenomenal answer. I have to share with you, I have performed at Manchester Pride myself several years ago before COVID. I am an erotic poet. And I performed at Superbia and in Sackville Garden on the stages there. This was years ago when I was touring. Again, pre-COVID. I used to tour every summer. And Manchester was one of my favorite places to go because I had the best friends there. And I always came in the summer so that I would make sure I was there for Pride season. That's when I toured. And one of my favorite things about Pride in Manchester is Sackville Garden. I don't know what it is about that tiny little space, but in it being fenced in, feeling like intimate, I guess.
Yeah.
But that is one of my favorite places, and my memories of Manchester surround that. I have a lot of friends that I have actually convinced to move to Florida. Sorry, guys, from Manchester. I've got at least 3 friends that I've convinced to move to Florida. So, sorry, but they do come back for Manchester Pride.
Glad to hear it.
Just letting
really
you know.
Moving to hear that you have that connection. With
Oh
Manchester.
yeah. That's why I asked for this interview, because I was like, oh wait, Manchester Pride. Wait a minute, that's me. So, with for those who are unfamiliar, because like I said, I have a connection. I'm very familiar with Manchester Pride. But for those who are unfamiliar with Manchester Pride, what would you say to them to make them want to visit, bend, or perform from the U.S.?
So Manchester Pride sits as one of the leading Pride celebrations in the UK, in Europe, and arguably around the world. I think it's because of our dynamic approach to inclusion. We've learned a lot, and I've learned a great deal, which I make sure that the learnings of these experiences are embedded in what it is that we deliver. What we strive to achieve is a Pride celebration by queer people, for queer people and our allies. And the way in which we do that is making sure that our communities and our further marginalised communities are empowered, platformed and elevated to take control of what that looks like. So when you come to Manchester Pride, you'll see us when it comes to the curation of our performances, because we feel that party as process is a vital part of a Pride celebration, so that we recognise what it is that we're celebrating, so that we know that we're still fighting to retain the freedoms that we've got. When it comes to the curation of the entertainment that we have, we hand it out to our communities. And the way in which we're doing that at the moment, we talk to and engage with our communities and ask, what would you like? And which are the key priorities that you want us to focus on? From those key priorities, we recognise, and our communities have told us, the further marginalised people, QT-POC communities, wider trans communities, and disabled people are priorities for us. So we created space to provide opportunities for those communities to take ownership of stage takeovers, of performances, of making sure that we are accessible. And we're quite bold. We're not afraid to be different. In fact, we kind of thrive on it. It's one of the catchphrases. It's one of not the slogans that's used or embraced by the city, is that we do things differently here, and we do. And I'm proud to say that a lot of what we do, and the innovation that we create in Manchester, is replicated by other Pride organisers, and that's when that brings a smile onto our face, because we think if there's something that we've learned and we can share with others to advance the movement in their city, that then we can. Sorry, I'm going off tangent here.
I love it.
Manchester, there's something in the air. Manchester's truly unique. For my role, there's been a lot of research that I've had to undertake over the years, travelling to many different Pride celebrations around the globe. And when I come home to Manchester, I'm often really touched by the sense of the advancement that we have, the recognition, the respect for those further marginalised, for what the journey is that we've got to achieve. But there's something in the spirit of Mancunians that you feel strength from allyship, and that you're not alone in the fight. And that strength of collaboration, you feel that strength of community throughout the entire festival when it's Manchester Pride. Our city is really proud, and it always brings a smile to my face, because I feel so fortunate and privileged to have grown up in this environment where I feel free to be myself. It's because it's a nurturing space where it's all embracing, all encompassing, but not just that. We celebrate difference. We celebrate all of our differences really well in Manchester. Why should you come? It's one of the best cities on earth. That's
Also, best answer ever. Now, if you have a motto or a favorite phrase, what is it and why?
I have. I'm you hear a lot of people saying this these days, but I come from the mind of thinking that I'm values driven, and I realised that I was values driven before I even understood what that meant or that values were a thing. So for me, there's different mottos that I'll apply at different times. I'll give you the one that raises the most eyebrows often is I adopt forgive me for using foul language, I adopt a no arseholes or a no dickheads policy. And that enables me to remain focused on what it is that I need to achieve and what I'm focused on doing. But one of the key ones for me that goes alongside that one, because that's often harder to navigate because there are so many of them, right? So sometimes it makes
Sadly.
it tough. What I abide by is I choose kindness. So for me, when I'm talking to anybody within the work that I do, I encourage everybody to be kind and to understand what that means and the difference that you can achieve by being that way. We all have challenges to face, and we are fighting a fight. This is a real fight that we've got. But for me, I choose kindness every time, and that's what works for me. So, yeah, it's my favourite as well, because there's so much power in being kind. And you see kindness changing the world. That might sound profound, but from my perspective, it resonates with me because I achieved some successes from being kind. When I say successes, I mean engaging with people, learning things from life and moving forward. So, yeah, if I had to choose one, my motto would just be kind.
Love it. Love it. Now, I sit on the board of St. Pete Pride here in Florida, and I am the entertainment committee chair here. And I understand that you are in the midst of announcing your headliners this year, and I understand exactly how exciting that is because we just announced ours. So, can you tell us who's been announced so far?
Yes, I can tell you who's been announced so far. So the way in which we try to design our lineup this year is to make sure that we have that queer local talent represented, but by inviting international guests onto our stages, elevating them and opening up the world of opportunities. And some of the guests that are coming to join us this year include Jessie J, twice Eurovision winner Loreen. We have Bimini. We have DJ Paulette, who is an iconic Manchester DJ. We have our stage takeovers coming on this year as well. So we have the Queer Asian Takeover. We have Queer Women's Space. We have Disabled Queer Joy. And we have Black Pride MCR taking over one of the main performance stages for a whole day this year as well. We're really bringing it this year. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot more to come because I know what we've not announced yet as well. We're really excited that we'll be able to create a diverse lineup with so many genres to appeal to lots of different tastes, but most importantly, to provide that platform for the plethora of talent that we've got at home, but to share the stage with international artists, like I said, just to elevate them further and hopefully open the world of opportunities even greater.
Oh my gosh. Listen, you already had me at Jessie J, so. Now, for our readers, how can we find out more about Manchester Pride and your socials and things like that?
So our socials, so either internet search Manchester Pride or hit up our website, manchesterpride.com. That'll link you to our socials. That's the best way to stay engaged with us and to know what's going on. And my team has some flavour. So if you want entertainment with your Pride, then that's probably the best way to subscribe. From a factual basis, to find out a bit more about what Pride means to Manchester, what Manchester Pride does as a charity, and how we're trying to influence and encourage the movement in other parts of the world, you'll find all that at manchesterpride.com.
Wonderful. If there is one thing you want people to know about you, Manchester Pride, or take away from this interview, what would it be?
Oh, to know about me. No, I don't want to know anything about me. I'm quite a private person. So. Actually, I, as you can see, I've never been asked that question. To know about Manchester Pride. That it's one of the not miss events of the calendar, certainly from a queer touring perspective. If there's anywhere to go this year, it's Manchester, for Manchester Pride. Yeah, I'm going to shy away from it.
I stumped you, yay! Well,
yeah, so
That is wonderful. Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. This has been Immani Love with BlaqueOut Magazine with Mark Fletcher from Manchester Pride.